We rolling now. Let's go.
Gang. I didn't speak English really until I was 7. And I remember I was speaking Ukrainian with my dad, and the guy just goes over and he's like, "Why aren't you speaking English? Don't you know you're in America?"
Being different is awesome, and being different is good because the more different you are, the more you learn from each other.
I am both go to bed late and rise early. I usually go to bed like between 12 and 1 ish. I naturally wake up usually before 5.
That's insane that your
Works for
body
me.
is able to operate on personally what I think is such little time. What are you eating, man? What's that diet that gets you that energy?
I only eat protein powder. That's 99% of my calories. I don't even mix it with water and milk. I just like take the protein powder, like take the scooper and just like shove it in my mouth. I'm just a really high energy person. Like I don't drink coffee. Infectious disease and microbiology, which was a class that had me nicknamed Syphilis Severyn. Even got a little syphilis plushie out of. We got it right here. This is a spirochete, a syphilis spirochete that I got at Hopkins. It was my first ever prostate exam, and I literally I got up and I was like screaming.
I was gonna say in 40 to 50 years, I'll definitely hit you up. Just
Hopefully not. For Max's fans, Max was an elite ball handler. He might not have had the greatest outside shot, but he can get to the rim and could finish around the rim all the time.
Let's go, Air 5. Let's go, man. Okay. We rolling now. Let's go.
Gang.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of Sippin Soju podcast. We're here with the one and only Severyn. He's one of my good friends from college, and I don't want to butcher your last name. So what's up, Severyn?
Oh, dude. Happy to be here. All the way from Baltimore. Haven't seen Max in a while, so this is a great time for a great catch-up.
I know, it's kind of crazy that you're in the South now. Is that like your first time like being there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Would you consider Maryland the South? I mean, I guess it strictly speaking is in the southern portion of the continental U.S., but I feel like this is about as north as you can get south. You know?
That's true. I honestly I don't know like where the boundary lies, but how's life been there?
You know, it's a decent city. I mean, I prefer DC. I think DC has more things to do, but Baltimore has plenty of stuff to do. You know, plenty of like cool things within like, you know, a half hour to 45-minute drive too. I'm like super into like nature and stuff like that. So there's like the occasional good spot, but you know,
Gotcha.
can't complain too much.
Yeah. Have you had the chance to like play basketball? Because I know you did that a lot in college in Maryland.
Oh yeah, dude. We have the J Hoops chat.
The J Hoops.
And we have Cooley Gym, which is like the med student / like MPH and like a lot of like the healthcare campus related people like have that gym, and we like play quite often. I mean,
Gotcha.
There's a smidge that I play like, you know, like 3-4 times a week, sometimes more.
Yo, flex for the camera real quick.
Ooh, I got you.
Damn, yo. Hey, damn, hey. Everybody on the podcast getting that plus 10 pounds of muscle, so we love to see it.
Got to get that protein powder.
Yes, sir. To give like all the viewers a little more info on as to who Severyn is, do you mind just going a little more in detail on like your name, your age, and where you're from?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Severyn Kushmeliuk. I am 22 years old, and I am from Cleveland, Ohio. And then I was over at New Haven at Yale with Max, and I'm in Baltimore at Johns Hopkins Med.
And right after you graduated undergrad, did you go straight to med school?
I did. So, you know, finished the first year at 22. So
gotcha.
On the younger side, definitely.
Have you found that you've had enough of a break, or has it been still just like all the way forward, gas pedal?
You know, I felt a little burned out by the end of college. I think the pandemic kind of dealt with that a lot, but I had a nice summer break for 3 months, and, you know, med school hits you like a frying pan right in the face. You start off with, you know, 6 weeks of anatomy right away, and that's a little brutal, and then it gets a little easier afterwards. But, you know, the first 6 weeks were a rude awakening, and then afterwards it's been chill.
It's been chill. All right. Yo, that's the clickbait title. Severyn, med school's been chill at John Hopkins. If you want a chill experience, definitely go there. But that's awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear that things are going well. And I guess to better break down like the first year at Hopkins, could you I know you said the first 6 weeks was like anatomy and something like that. Do you mind breaking down like what different segments you went through during your first year?
Yeah, sure. So like the first portion, you know, the big thing is anatomy and anatomy lab. And it's a little different since like the pandemic kind of screwed things a little bit over, but the previous class couldn't really go in person at all, I don't think, outside of like maybe once a week to anatomy lab, like to for the actual cadaver. Well, we got to go several times, like twice, usually, sometimes three maybe, but I think usually twice a week. That was like super, helpful. I felt like the stuff that you actually cut into in the cadavers is stuff that you learn the best. So that was great. At the same time, you start learning how to create clinical skills and what we call CFM, the clinical foundations of medicine. And what happens is you have like a little group, it's called a molecule, which you're connected to at Hopkins. It's a little bit like Froco groups at Yale. And that's kind of like your primary support network. That's like your primary like point of contact, like your preceptor or whatever, like mine's Dr. Robinson. And they teach you clinical skills such as like, what are the various portions of a clinical exam, for like a head and neck exam, if you want to do like a musculoskeletal exam, if you want to do a neurologic exam, a gastrointestinal exam, pulmonary, heart, like you name it. And it's kind of like every single week, once a week, we'd have that for a couple hours. And we'd practice on each other. We'd practice on what's called standardized patients, SPs. And they're like actors that like come in and you practice like interview skills, you practice some clinical skills, there's like a one-time thing where this wasn't for a grade, but like we do the full genital urinary exam on a male and on a female patient that came in. And that was a really an interesting experience because like the male patients and female patients, I mean, it's like bad for both in certain regards because like you give a prostate exam to them, you like learn how to do a prostate exam. And these people basically get, they volunteer to come in on a Saturday and get like 15 prostate exams, and not just 15 prostate exams. It was my first ever prostate exam, and everyone else in that room, their first ever prostate exam that they gave, So it's kind of just like, damn, like in my mind, I was like, I would never be this person, but it's good that they exist.
Does this person like this, I guess like this test or this practice, not only like practice, it's a real person, but does this person like sign up because there's like some type of compensation, or they just love like bettering like the healthcare professionals?
I actually don't know. I feel like if they get compensation, it's not that much, but definitely I feel like they should get some compensation. I'm almost positive they do, but I don't know for certain. But like, yeah, a lot of them is just like, some of them are like old physicians that retired and are like, yeah, we got to try train the next generation of physicians, which is, it's a call of duty.
That's really beautiful, man. Not the scene itself, but just the fact that people are willing to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can imagine, like, obviously it was a good experience for you because you probably now definitely know how to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're becoming less common as there are other methods that are a little bit better at figuring out various things of like what happens if you suspect that someone's prostate is enlarged or like has some problems going on with it. But I mean, it's definitely still used all over the United States.
Gotcha. I was gonna say
Then,
in 40 to 50 years, I definitely hit you up. Just fine.
hopefully not. But yeah, after that, we have something called the Scientific Foundations of Medicine once you get done with anatomy, and you have CFM, the clinical foundations going on throughout the year. That's kind of like biochemistry, genetics, like the works of like the basic science that is important for medicine. And a lot of that was, for me, like that was super chill. I guess it isn't super chill for everyone that doesn't have a big basic science background, because I do. I was molecular biophysics and biochemistry at Yale. So like all that like hard science that's important to medicine is stuff that like I do cold for the most part. So it's just kind of like a chill period. And then afterwards you get into what's called genes to society. And that is once you go like the systemic overview of systems, and that like you start with like very broad stuff like pharmacology, stuff like oncology very generally. And then like you go system by system, hematology, oncology. We did infectious disease and microbiology, which was a class that had me nicknamed Syphilis Severyn because I heckled the instructor, and it was like a fun little relationship back and forth that I even got a little syphilis plushie out of. So it's a really fun time. The professors here are so funny.
Do you have the plushie on you?
Oh, of course I do.
Pull that up real quick for the chat.
We got it right here. This is a spirochete, a syphilis spirochete that I got at Hopkins.
That's awesome, man.
Honestly, I can say I got syphilis at Hopkins.
You're giving me so many clickbait titles. Like, this is not it. And Severin, like this is quality content right here. I did not know syphilis like looked like that. Then again, I've never like Googled or like looked up images. That must have been pretty exciting then. It sounds like you had a good relationship with just like professors and everything.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not every professor is as cool and as funny as Dr. Gotham. And I say that for perspective of a lot of bias, because he was great. but like a lot of professors are pretty cool too. Like the very last block was neurology, and kind of like the more like psychiatry block too, and like phenomenal professors are too. It was super fun, and like that was like one of the more fun, even though it was one of the more lengthy blocks, where it's like the essence of the course at the end is like, given a group of symptoms or neurological, can you locate a lesion? Which I mean, lesion just means like something went wrong somewhere, and that could be a tumor, that could be a stroke, dead tissue, like stuff like that. And like, can you localize to what portion of the brain, brainstem, like spinal cord, etc., or like a nerve, a peripheral nerve from that? It's like just like a fun puzzle to solve.
And then that's for your first year, right? So like, is there a set agenda for your second to fourth year, or like, what do you typically do?
Yeah, so you continue GTS2, Genius Society 2 in your second year, and that like complete stuff. Like I think we start either pulmonology or something like that. Like you use like stuff with the lungs, you do cardiology stuff with your heart, nephrology stuff with your kidneys, and you continue on until you finish. And like you finish the actual like didactic portion of classes right around like a year and 6 months or so, like 1.5 years at Hopkins. So I think it's like around like April-ish of like your M2 year. You transition into the wards, and that's when your clinical rotations start. And then you have like dedicated time to study for STEP. You have, all your general rotations. And then afterwards you can have your sub internships in like M3 and M4 year. And that's like when you start to specialize and like have residency interviews. People take time off usually between M2 and M3 year. I'm still considering doing an MPH, Master's in Public Health. And some people are trying to do an MBA, or the MD PhDs do their full PhD in between M2 and M3 year.
And would you say that at this point you've kind of identified what specialty you're interested in, or is that too soon to ask?
I definitely think there are some people that are more like knowledgeable of what they want to do completely. I'm interested in a variety of things. I think scientifically and clinically, I'm probably most interested in oncology, probably more solid tumor than like blood tumors. I actually work in a clinic that is more dealing with the pancreatic cancers, some anal cancers, like that type of stuff. And it's like the pancreatic cancer is like one of like the last frontiers of cancer. Not to say that like other forms of cancer have phenomenal treatment that like, you'll survive 100% of the time, but it's definitely significantly better than pancreatic cancer. And it's like one of those things where, it's a really brutal diagnosis usually, but hopefully with time and even the innovation going on right now that like are improving outcomes already.
Gotcha. Yeah, I also asked Guan a similar question. He was our first podcast guest, and I asked him what specialty he was interested in. And even I think he's one year above you right now. And
Yes.
yeah, he's like, he's still exploring. So yeah, didn't expect anything concrete, but oncology sounds really cool. My older brother, so I have one older brother, and he actually I think he was passionate about oncology for the longest time, and then he eventually switched to diagnostic radiology. So there you go.
That's a cool field too. Very important in like a variety of factors in medicine too.
For sure. Gotta have good eyes.
I remember the first time that they had us like look over an X-ray. I think it was of your lungs, of like lungs and like trachea, like this kind of general area. And I remember the radiologist that was looking over the slides with us, as you can clearly see, like what's going on right here. And I'm just like,
Clearly.
Everybody is like in our chat was just like roasting, like basically being like, dang, like just look at this like black square. And clearly you can see things that like are slightly different. And it's just like, you're just like looking at the screen and you're like, I literally cannot tell a difference. Like, should I put on glasses or something?
It's like, this is 240p, man. Like, I don't get high enough resolution on my laptop to look at this.
That's true. I mean, like I did some radiology research in undergrad, and it's like you sit in a dark room with like these like high intensity monitors and like trying to like look at things. And I was like, props to the people that can do this, but that is not the specialty for me. Diagnostic radiology is of course a little different. It is a lot more like intensive, and they do like operations and stuff like that. So it is quite different from the clinical radiology, but
Gotcha.
both very important.
I think interventional is the clinical operating one, and diagnostic is just reading. So yeah.
Oh, he's diagnostic.
Yeah, he's diagnostic.
Oh,
yeah. He's not doing surgeries or anything like that. So you basically roasted him. I'm gonna let him know that.
It's important, but yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough, man. And then like, given that I know you said you had a brief summer break, and that was really nice. And during the pandemic, obviously being remote, were you remote for a period of time as well, or is that an assumption?
We had always had in-person stuff. So like at first, at first it was like the first week or so was like completely like, okay, we're gonna go. Like the pandemic is slightly over, so like it's important to go in. So anatomy was supposed to be every single day, how it was pre-pandemic. But then like there was a rise in cases, and I think that's when Delta started to get bigger. And then Omicron obviously arose even later after that, and they're a little concerned with rising cases. But we still were fully in person for the most part. There are a couple of weeks, especially at the end of our first semester, and there was like a up in cases where a bunch of students got COVID, and like the last 2 days or so were like fully virtual. But outside of that, for the most part, it's been in person for at least 50%. I think med schools in general, even before the pandemic, were moving towards like a kind of a flipped classroom style, which Hopkins was, where you're given almost all your lectures are asynchronous and online, but then like small group stuff where you apply that is almost always in person.
I did not know that med schools were gearing towards that. That's good to know. And being that you've been in person, have you found like the camaraderie or community amongst your classmates? Do you feel like you're close with them, or how is that at Hopkins?
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially I feel like relative to the current M2 class, the year above us, or I guess M3 at this point. But like, that was not the case when we had come in to see their class, because they were fully remote for the most part, like
I
during like the
see.
peaks of the pandemic. So you can see that they were like kind of building camaraderie. They're slightly ahead of us, obviously, but like it was like not really there. And like a lot of traditions were like dying down and all that. So it's like it took a lot of like pushing and chugging along to like, especially from the upperclassmen, M3s, M4s, MD PhDs, that would come back to like try to like revive that. But I'd say our class definitely has a lot of camaraderie.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you've experienced that, and I'm glad that that's the case for you right now. So
It's super fun too. Hopkins Med, just like Yale, has like a differentiation of colleges where you're like, there are 4 colleges in Hopkins Med that you're randomly assorted into. Of course, Tausig is the Pauli Murray, aka the GOAT best college.
Tausig,
Um,
okay. I'll have to throw an image up when I edit this of what the campus
yeah.
looks like.
Well, the
Sounds
Med campus
good.
is really small. It's not like it's your house. It's like it's a common room in the one building we have for medical education called the Armstrong Medical Education Building. We have a pterodactyl sign, and we're named after Helen Tausig.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I just like pictured like some grand like Murray type structure, like,
No.
but I guess that's the case. Overall, how would you rate your work-life balance? Being in med school is really tough, and like, I guess, could you give maybe a week in the life in terms of like how much free time you have, or quote unquote free time when you're not doing other things?
It really depends by block and how close you are to an exam.
Okay,
I
sure.
feel like my personal philosophy is a little different from all the people's. Like a lot of people are like, basically you won't do anything right before an exam, like the weekend before. And I'm kind of just like, there's always an exam. In med school, there literally always is an exam. And if you say that you're not going to do anything right before an exam, you're not going to do anything ever, because there's literally always an exam.
Fair enough.
And you have to prepare, like, don't get me wrong, like, but it depends on the block. For instance, like anatomy, I think is the most extreme example, where like oftentimes, probably 20 to 25 hours of lecture a week, and lab time, another, 3 hours of like the clinical portions, like there's a CFM. I'm pretty sure that started already at that point. And then, before an exam, I'd say like the average amount of time the week before an exam, people would study 20 to 30 hours, depending on the person. I think I'd be closer to the 20 usually. I know some people could like get away with like 5 to 10, maybe not 5, but like certainly 10.
Yeah, yeah.
But you just like plug along. I think in CFM, I only study like the morning, like the day before an exam, like for 2 hours or 3 hours, just to like refresh content, because I was quite solid on that. Then once we got into GTS, I think basically be like try to plug away along over the course, and then kind of like 3-4 days before the course, just like heavily review for like 2 days of maybe like 4 or 5 hours a day of actual just like studying. But I'd say I try to in general not study after 7 p.m., 8 p.m. I don't always take that fully. It's like more of a goal as opposed to like a hard and fast rule, but I like to have my
Yeah,
evenings
yeah.
free and relax.
How about in the mornings then? So we're talking about time. Are you an early riser or are you a late
I
riser?
am. I I
Okay.
I, I am both. Go to bed late and rise early. So, I feel like late is a relative term. I usually go to bed like between 12 and 1 ish. I naturally wake up usually before 5, sometimes right around 5. Today I think I woke up at 5:15. Just like around those times. I don't set alarms, so it's kind of whack, but
That's insane that your
works for me.
body is able to operate on personally why I think it's such little time and it's still so consistent. What are you eating, man? What's that diet that gets you that energy?
I only eat protein powder. That's 99% of my calories. And I don't even mix it with water and milk. I just like take the protein powder, like take the scooper and just like shove it in my mouth.
Use dry scoop protein powder. Oh my goodness. Hey, I mean, there you go. For anyone who's thinking about med school or currently in med school, you need to change your diet. Get on that Severyn diet.
Please don't do that. Don't do that, actually.
You'll probably need a prostate exam after doing that. Actually,
You might have your kidney shut down if you have that much protein.
it's really cool to hear about your schedule. I feel like, do you think there's a gene that's associated with how tired you get and how much sleep you need? Do you think that's a thing? I heard on a Joe Rogan podcast or something like that. Like apparently that was like debatable.
I can't say anything smart or intelligent because I don't know. I feel like there probably is some sort of genetic and behavioral component. I'm just a really high energy person. Like I don't drink coffee. So, like
I was gonna ask that
that's
next.
just,
Yeah.
I'm already so like high energy that I feel like whenever I get coffee, I just like I get like really jittery. And it's like not like really as much like it like wakes me up when I'm tired. Cause I mean, I'm tired occasionally. Everyone's tired occasionally. And like every once in a while I will drink a very small amount of coffee. I'm more of a tea drinker. I love tea. I love the
Okay.
taste. I love like just like it just reminds me of childhood, reminds me of just like, like late nights randomly studying like all across Yale campus. And it's just like tea's the vibe.
I agree with that. I've been trying to switch to tea or like at least use a straw because for the longest period of time I did black coffee for like 2 years and that stuff will bleach your teeth. Like it'll make your teeth brown and it's just it's a love-hate relationship.
Well,
I
so
hate
does
the
tea, right?
yeah, yeah, no, fair enough. Tea does as well, but gotta use a straw. I guess that's the hint of
Why do you
advice
hate the
there.
environment?
What do I hate the environment?
Yeah, dude. Or do you use a metal straw?
Oh, I was talking completely metal. 100%
Okay,
metal.
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Who do you think I am?
I don't.
No, I only use a meat straw so I can eat it afterwards.
Dude, this guy works out.
It's just like a piece of bacon that's coiled around a piece of metal and then you bake it and then like the entire thing's edible. Yeah, that's totally me.
That sounds like it burns
Um,
your mouth though.
it probably does. Yeah, I guess like right now would like to jump into rapid fire questions. If that sounds good with you. First question, what's your favorite snack?
Favorite snack?
Yes, sir.
I am a fan of cashews.
Cashews, like the nuts.
Yeah.
Why are cashews superior to any other type of nut?
I think they have a slightly larger fat content, so they taste a little bit better to me. I don't like them salted though.
You and my mom would get along so well. She never buys salted nuts, and I absolutely hate it.
Hey man,
It's a-
hypertension runs in the family. I try to like keep the salt down.
no, I feel that high blood pressure and all that stuff. Um, cool. And then what's the best TV show of all time?
Dude, that's a really hard question.
How about
Up
from childhood?
until from childhood,
Childhood, and then what you were gonna say up until a certain period.
I was gonna say up until last week. So, but okay, childhood. I feel like I didn't really appreciate it until I was like in high school, but like the Futurama was insane. I loved it as a kid. And then like once I started getting the humor more, I was like, this is so well done. And actually the David X. Cohen gave a tea time talk at Murray because so our head of college, um, our head of college's husband, Doc S. Stuart Semmel, he's like the associate head of college, went to Harvard. And his roommate was David X. Cohen at Harvard, who eventually would write for The Simpsons, and then was one of the creators of Futurama alongside, Matt Groening. It was super
Insane.
cool to meet him. Fun fact: his favorite character is actually Zoidberg, if that means anything to you, because that was like completely his creation.
I don't. I've
The
okay.
lobster guy. It's the lobster doctor.
Oh, I see. Because like so back in like middle school, I think, or elementary school, I used to watch like Adult Swim sometimes, mainly for like Naruto or Toonami or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
excellent. But yeah, I never really dove into Futurama. I know it's that robot guy. That's about it.
Bender, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Like
Bender.
borderline, psychotic robot. So funny.
What about
But then
yeah, you're saying?
afterwards, I say for the longest time, I like a lot of like dark shows. So like I love Breaking Bad. Then I think my favorite show was the Chernobyl HBO miniseries. It's like a 6 episode series that was just excellent, like really well done and like really true to like what truly happened. Outside of a little snippets where actually you can always be nitpick, where they showcase that like a firefighter's wife like got severe radiation exposure just by like basically like hugging and touching him, which not necessarily completely true, but it would
Okay.
fit like the drama of the scene. But that I started watching Band of Brothers like a couple days ago, and I think it is upended as my favorite show now.
Really? Wait, it's called Band of Brothers, or
Yeah, it's about it's called Easy Company, which was a paratrooping an infantry regiment of paratroopers in World War II that were like instrumental in like a lot of the things that you think about when you think of World War II, like D-Day on the European front, and the Battle of the Bulge, and ultimately like took hit like the Eagle's Nest, which is like Hitler's vacation home. It was around that time, so really excellent group of guys, and it's just like a really well done show. It's Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, so like big names. It's kind of hilarious because like the initial drill sergeant is Ross from Friends, so it's kind of hard to take him seriously, at least for me, because like I just think like it's just like some goofy dude, and all of a sudden he's a drill sergeant. But
yeah. No, I feel that's the same way. It's like when you have like a comedian who plays like a serious character or like in like a heartthrob, it's like, dude, you're like the guy who like flashed the camera so many times in another episode. Um, but I feel like I haven't been really watching as riveting content as you. I've been getting into Hell's Kitchen, watching like
hey, that's
Gordon
good too.
Ramsay. Yeah, it's I just think it's funny, like how Gordon Ramsay just like blasts and just lights people up. It's like a funny pastime.
Dude. But I'll say Naruto, that is a cultured show. I have a cardinal sin of I don't really like filler episodes as much. So like when I
Yeah.
actually watch Naruto straight through, like all 700 whatever episodes, where I like basically like do the filler episodes on double speed, and if they would really annoy me, I like skip over them. But outside of that, like such great arcs. Dude, the pain arc is so good. Oh my god.
Okay. Disclaimer: I haven't actually finished Naruto. I only finished to like past like the tuning exam because
That's like nothing.
I watched it live exactly. So like I don't really know
Yeah.
what happens afterwards. But what I will say about the filler episode is I completely agree. When I was watching it live, you wait, that Thursday or Friday night for that episode to be on. When's a filler? So disappointing. You're like, give me more. But
You know,
it is what it is.
but I don't know if you watch Jujutsu Kaisen at all right now. That like I love that too,
It's
right?
good.
Over the last like 2 years or so, yeah. And of
I
course,
think my older brother was watching it, but haven't gotten into it.
not super fair.
And then how did you treat yourself? Like, let's say you have an exam on that Friday, you absolutely hit it out of the ballpark. What do you do for like self care and like to keep the morale going? Or
I think it depends. I feel like early on, like last semester, like people would just go ham after every exam. Like, basically they'd be like, we'd like throw a party, and people go in, and some people would go club, some people wouldn't. And it'd just be like, kind of just like let loose like once every 2 weeks or so. Now I think it depends, just like hit up friends, cook, bake, um, watch a movie or something. Like I'm a huge Marvel fan too, and it just so happened there was like twice where there was like a Marvel film that came out like right around an exam, and like basically the night of the exam or the day after, it would go all and see it. I think I saw Everything Everywhere like right after an exam too. I love that movie. It was like it's probably my favorite movie the last like 3 years to come out.
really now? Okay.
Yeah, I have very high praise.
Yeah. So tell me, do you like the multiverse? What are your thoughts on that?
Not the Facebook multi, or that's the metaverse or whatever, but I think it was a fun, Doctor Strange, and then I think Doctor Strange did it not as great as Everything Everywhere. I'm a fan of dark comedies too, and it's like I love sci-fi and dark comedies, and A24 has wonderful cinematography too. And that's like the company that like did it. It's getting like really hot the last like 2 years, well, year and a half, because they did
Mhm.
Midsummer like 2018 or whatever, and I thought beautiful imagery on there, even though like not everyone liked the story as much. And I think they did Euphoria, I'm pretty sure too, and Everything Everywhere. So like that they have like a bunch of stuff that's like quite popular recently, but brilliant.
Do you think that the multiverse is real?
I don't think you can like completely say that it's not real. I think I don't know if I'm not a physicist, right? But like I love like reading a bunch of like on quantum and like all the other stuff. And there are certainly a lot of people who are significantly smarter than I am who say that it is a distinct possibility. And in fact, if you actually want to marry, the central thing in physics, which is quantum, and then gravity, basically, and like they don't fit, they can't like put it together at any point. And a lot of people are like string theory, and like string theory only works, what is it, 11 dimensions or whatever. You try to get Einstein's equations out of it, so that almost like definitionally means like some sort of metaverse exists or multiverse exists. It might not be exactly like how movies project it,
Yeah,
where it's it's like like
the
you've
hot
got
dog
like
fingers.
space, you got here and here, but like maybe
No,
it's
for sure.
possible. Maybe
No,
there's
for
like a
sure.
me out there somewhere that's like smart as hell, president of the United States level person, president of the world, even, who knows. But we're just stuck with what we are.
Smart as hell and jacked.
Damn.
Couldn't be Earth Severin.
Never.
No, no, I'm playing there. And then when you said about like how Earth and like the multiverse could not be like it wouldn't be portrayed as in the movies, the first thing that came to my mind was like that scene where this is a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen everything everywhere. The hot dog fingers, that like
Oh
kind
my
of
god.
that like creeped me out, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That was weird.
It was so funny.
That
It
was
was so
so
funny.
weird.
At the end, dude, I think my favorite scene was like when there were rocks and you just see the rock dialogue. I thought that was so well made. It was so funny for like, I was like, how am I laughing so hard at this?
You were that guy. You were that guy in the theater who like started dying laughing. Oh my god.
The thing is like, so like a spoiler alert, like if you have mommy issues, this movie would probably make you cry. So like I don't really have mommy issues. A lot of my friends that do like literally like cried hard at the end. And I was just like, it definitely tugged at my heartstrings quite a bit. And like I don't cry. I'll tear up. I teared up heavily when spoiler alert Endgame, when Iron Man died. That was kind of like, it was like when Iron Man died at the end of Everything Everywhere, is like when I would tear up. So that's like a strong emotional moment in movies for me.
I might have to just end the podcast right now. This is not recoverable, the emotional state I'm in.
I'm sorry, Max.
Going back to what you said about like how you'd feel from the movie in terms of like if you have like quote unquote mommy issues, but also I feel like coming from like immigrant families, seeing like your immigrant parents work hard, I feel like that's also a common theme that really kind of tugged on me. I feel like more so for others as well. Um,
Totally agree.
Wondering if that would be a cool topic for us to jump into in terms of just like being from like immigrant families and stuff like that.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah, so could you give a little more backstory as to your cultural heritage and like where your family's from and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Like culturally, I'm definitely fully Ukrainian. If you look at like genetically and like all the other things, there's a mix of that, a lot of like Central Asian culture and Crimean Tatar, and Roma, which is quite cool stuff, but not as much stuff that I'm as in tune with. My grandmother on both sides were both orphaned at like early ages, so a lot of like their cultural heritage, which is more along those lines, was lost, in them and in me. But there's still a lot of stuff that we do that like a lot of kebabs and stuff like that, that's like significantly more Central Asian, and that is like very prevalent in Ukrainian society, especially today. But Ukrainian, my parents were born in the Soviet Union. I could get really depressing really fast. I don't know how much I want to do that. That's the vibe here. But basically, every male member of my like family outside of my dad and my maternal uncle, it was killed by the state at some point. Both of my grandfathers were. So like they both died when my parents were 12, and there's an 8-year difference between my parents. So they died like 30 years before I was even born. So I never even like knew them. I only heard stories about like what they did, and like they're all rebel fighters in World War II, where they were in a tricky situation where in come the Nazis, and all these people are like even repressed by the Soviets for years. So like nothing can be worse than the Soviets. And of course the Nazis were really bad still. And they realize that, so fight back against the Nazis, and in comes the Red Army and says you're all traitors. So they have to like basically fight against a true front war, against the Nazis and the Soviets at the same time, and that is a losing battle. And they were guerrilla warfare like into like the 50s against the Soviets, and high death rate. The Soviets killed them and their families, and in the 60s, when the artists came in and killed all of them too. But I feel that's a strong portion of my identity, is just like rebellion, and try to live out your culture as much as possible, because you can see how much people are trying to take that away, as you can see to this day. Um, but my parents came in. My dad came in right around 91, before the Soviet Union collapsed. He, for some reason, I think he came in on a student's visa / worker's visa. So, he was like officially studying, and like went with his skiing friends, and was like in Hunter for a little bit, and then took a bunch of like random jobs. And then his lawyer kind of, there are a lot of Ukrainian American lawyers there in the United States that kind of prey on Ukrainian immigrants, especially in the 90s. I mean, it happens now too. There's always, just crap people that exists, and like purposely basically let his visa expire. My dad didn't speak that much English, much less lawyers speak. So he was like illegally in the country for 2 days, like in between the days where his visa expires. There's like a whole bunch of court battles he had to do, and was almost deported by ICE twice. I don't remember that. So I was like 2 years old, like even hearing, my dad was detained by ICE, and, had to like be there in the prison for like, 2 days, until the such a like whack time. But basically the judge that he was under was notorious that 100% of the cases that he had, all deportees, retired the day before my dad was tried. So he had a new judge that was a little bit more friendly, and like thankfully my dad wasn't deported. And like that was fine. And he finally got citizenship literally right when Trump was elected. My mom got citizenship a couple years before. And I grew up with my mom going to school, as well as cleaning houses, and my dad was like a taxi driver and a pizza driver, and just like picked up any job possible. So like one of my earliest memories is waking up when I thought was the crack of dawn. I honestly don't know what time it was. Probably like right around 6 a.m. But like for some reason I thought it was the middle of the night. And I wake up and I see my mom cooking breakfast right before she's going to work for the day, so she can like go to night school. So I grew up in a spot where like my parents worked so much, and it was just always just like I felt like a pressure where like I can't make their sacrifice go in vain, where I have to do everything that I am doing to the best of my abilities, and try to maximize whatever intelligence I have to be able to to go to college. Because that was early that they had a conversation that were basically like you have to get a scholarship to college because we can't afford college. So it's like that's kind of like the spot that I was raised in.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I I somewhat relate on the aspect of growing up with like immigrant parents. My parents were born in Shanghai and then they immigrated over. Well, my dad got his PhD and they both came from not much money whatsoever. So seeing them scrap and seeing them literally like try to build a life for themselves and for their family, I can definitely attest to like that being a true part of my identity as well as to like why I grind and like work hard and like I think that's one really motivating factor that honestly is a blessing in the fact that it makes you so motivated, but also, yeah, man, like being from immigrant parents and like immigrant families, and obviously like going through what your family's been through, I think that's a lot.
I mean, I totally agree with like the motivation factor though. And I think, it's just I always found that as like almost a chip on my shoulder. Cause I remember even in middle school, I remember, I'm from a very conservative area, kind of like the place I was from. And I remember like, people would like say all this random crap. And, people would be like, go back to Russia, like, which always like, just like kind of ticked me off, and like talked about like things like, like me, just parroting what their parents are saying. Cause these people are sixth, seventh grade. Like how much political capital and political knowledge do they truly have at that point? But, it's like stuff like, like we're going to deport your whole family because, they're stealing our jobs, like stuff like that, that like, I feel
Yeah.
like, some don't realize. Or like I remember very early on, I think I was 7 or 8 and I went to the Y, and my dad and I didn't speak English really until I was 7. And just because I was like in an ethnic enclave for the most part, where like everyone around me spoke Ukrainian or Polish. So that's like what languages I spoke. And I remember I was speaking Ukrainian with my dad, and the guy just goes over and he's like, "Why aren't you speaking English? Don't you know you're in America?" It's just like, like just that's what you're supposed to do here. And I remember like I was just like internally, I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't know English well enough to like do all these things, and like I'm never gonna fit in. And, I have a slight accent at this point. And I just remember my dad's like, hey, like never be embarrassed by your culture, never be like embarrassed by your language. Like these people know half a language and they're just quite frankly jealous that you know more than one. And it's kind of just like to this day, I try to keep the language alive. I try to speak it as much as possible, and try to have the old customs not die.
100%, man. I completely resonate with what you just said. Like, I also obviously being born in an area that wasn't really ethnically diverse, and being one of like the only Asian families in my community, I feel like it was definitely difficult to continue and to like learn more about like my Asian heritage. And I'm really happy that my mom and dad spent so much time like showing me all these different, things and traditions. And one thing I've definitely learned from like being in elementary school, and like you said, it's kind of sad when like in middle school these kids are saying these things and they don't truly understand what they're saying. So like I can't really fault them for that. It's probably like some type of influence around them, but it's just like, dude, like being different is awesome and being different is good, because the more different you are, the more you learn from each other. And like I feel like that's something that needs to be emphasized more, especially in like schools where everyone's trying to conform and be one person. It's like embrace your weirdness, just do like be yourself. It's okay to not dress the same. It's okay to not speak the same. Just like respect it, but also like you're not forced to be a type of way. You shouldn't have to feel that way.
Not to mention food, man. I got bullied so much for having so much garlic in my food. And I think I was embarrassed then to the point, like, I remember asking my dad, I was like, can I just eat American food? Like, I'm like sick of people always making comments about like, that looks weird, that looks gross, that looks, like that's like, like whatever. And it's just like, man, can I just do that? And like, I remember, I forget what movie it was in. I think it was some short film that was at some film festival that like basically showed like a Greek family that's living here and then like a kid going through the exact same thing. And I was like, that really resonated with me because like I remember specifically like asking my parents and like being embarrassed about the food that I eat because there's too much garlic and like I smell like garlic now. And it's just like you grow out of that slightly, in high school and especially into college. I think college is the first time I was actually at a place where I mean, I'm white, obviously, so everyone around me is white, but I feel like it was just like different because it's like you're an other, like Slavic people even considered like quote unquote white up until like the 90s really in the United States, and even still to this day in Europe, it's like Slavic is kind of just like it's like the bottom tier of Europeanness. It's like you're barely European. You're basically you're either a prostitute or like a construction worker. That's like the only two things that you can be in Western Europe. So it's kind of just like that like just like weird mentality. But like college is the first time I come in. I'm like, okay, I actually feel like I can resonate with people and like we can like share culture and like what quote unquote America is, at its core, like, when people are like the melting pot, the country of immigrants. That's like the first time I actually felt like that was true, and obviously that's a small microcosm that's not reflective of so many other spaces. But it was just like, I feel like that's why I had such a great experience in college and like why I loved it so much. And I still like, miss undergrad to this day in many ways. It's because like I felt like at home for the first time outside of, like just being in a place where everyone's constantly making like stupid comments about like random things that I can't control.
I completely agree with that. I feel like college is definitely like I definitely feel fortunate and blessed to be able to attend like a similar position to you. Obviously, like my parents would not have been able to afford sending me to college, so definitely had to get a scholarship. And obviously, Yale has really nice financial aid as well. So just like the culmination of all that, it it was definitely like a really fortunate and really like just awesome experience that I hope many other like ambitious young people out there like get to experience something like that. Unfortunately, like not many people get the same opportunity.
I will say, I think that's not only like true at Yale or other quote unquote elite prestigious universities. I think
Yeah.
that's true at a variety of places. So, I think, I'm from Ohio. I was planning on going to Ohio State from the time I remember like first thinking about even
The
college when I was
Ohio
like
State.
they trademarked the, so
Oh
it's
my God.
the Ohio State. And everyone I know that like went there, like I think going away from home and being away from like certain influences is good for people just to see new perspectives. And obviously I see new perspectives, but I feel like the people around me in high school, like they came back and like apologized to me years later, basically being like, oh, I feel like we were really rude. And I think they had something that they wanted from me at that point, like, either like advice or like stuff like that. But at the same time, it felt like, not that I like wanted an apology for them. And a lot of these people are like not people I really wanted to speak to like ever again. But it felt nice to like see that there's growth that goes on.
Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely feel like people learn a lot when you move out of like this small community that you grew up in, whether it's going out of state or going somewhere away from everyone else that you've been a part of. It really changes how you think. And I think that's like honestly one of the best things for like someone who's young. It's like ditch everything that you know and just go somewhere else where you don't really know anyone else. And obviously that's the more extreme version, but it's like when you do that, you begin to form your own thoughts, you begin to form new friends, and you learn so many more things without having the same influence on you at the same time.
Can't agree more.
Man, well, dude, that was Well, number one, thanks for being so like real and deep with all that. I did not know that about like your family or anything like that at all. And yeah, man, I feel like one thing that I've really come to enjoy about doing this podcast is I can actually get to really know someone, you know? Like I feel like in college, like, you know, how much chatting are we gonna do in pickup basketball? I don't get playing time. So
That's not true.
so
For Max's fans, Max was an elite ball handler. He might not have had the greatest outside shot, but he can get to the rim and could finish around the rim all the time.
yeah. I'm gonna blurb out when you said didn't have the greatest what is it, the greatest outside shot, and then I'm gonna make it say he had the greatest outside shot. Perfect. Okay, this is where my elite editing skills go into play. So
Of course.
yeah, so right now, if it sounds good with you, I'd like to dive into some trivia.
Trivia.
Yeah,
Okay, let's do it.
So this is the portion of the show. I call it the halftime show, but this is like definitely more towards the end of the show. But basically, I like to you know, assess the worldliness of my guests, and basically I'll have 3 trivia questions. If you get all 3 questions correct, then what are we doing today? Previously, I've done then like the other person's do a dance. Previously, I've done you have to sing a song. Do you prefer to sing or dance?
The world is your oyster. So whatever you want to see me do.
We'll do dance. 100%. All right. So the way it works is I'm gonna ask 3 random trivia questions. And then if you get all 3 correct, then I have to do a dance for 15 seconds. If you do not get all 3 correct, then you have to do a dance for 15 seconds.
What are my odds? How many people have had to dance?
So this is the 6th podcast. In terms of singing / dancing, I've lost 1 time. So I had to sing once, but I've never danced on camera, and I don't plan on treating the viewers like that today. So
Oh man. All right. Well, I'll have to really get a drink of water and make sure that I'm mentally prepared.
get hydrated, you know. Make sure the brain's working optimally.
Well, that's impossible at this point, but it's okay.
Fair enough. All right, so the first trivia question is about animals, okay? Okay, question number 1. What animal is known to spend 90% of its day sleeping?
Lion?
Is that your final answer?
Oh no, I feel like that means that it's wrong. But I feel like that the first thing that comes to mind is some sort of large carnivore that tries to conserve energy. So I feel like a big cat, like a lion.
I love how you broke down like your thought process as to why like the answer was what you said. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to lock it in.
Okay. According to this trivia, that it could be right, but that's not the answer listed. It's koalas.
Oh man, I lost in the first question.
Hey, you new to the show, and you know what, Severyn? We'll count that one as a practice one, all right? It's so funny because for previous guests I've had on the show, whenever they get the first one wrong, most of them get the first one, most of them get all of them wrong. But during the first one, when they got the first one wrong, they're like, "Hey man, like that was a practice one. Give me like 4 out of 5. Come on." But
Yeah, not about that life.
you just accepted fate. I like that. Okay, I'll give you. All right, next question. This is also animal related, so hope you've been watching Animal Planet.
Not for a while.
How do sea otters keep from drifting apart while they sleep?
Oh, don't they like hold hands?
Is that your final answer? Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yes. No, that's correct. They hold hands. Let's go. Air 5. Let's go. Let's go, man. Question number 2. Oh, all these are so easy. You're gonna get these so easy. I gotta choose.
I feel like I'm getting gassed.
I gotta get one with a little more kick, you know, a little more spice.
Oh boy.
Oh, I'm not giving it. There are a couple of science ones. Hell no, I ain't giving you those. Easy cash money right there. I'm gonna try to get you something that I don't think you would like something that you wouldn't know top of mind, because all these I feel like you'd get relatively easy. Because
Oh boy.
I have high expectations about your intelligence.
Oh boy.
Next question is funny trivia, but this won't be funny if you don't get it right.
Shit.
What does come down but never goes up?
Goes down, whatever goes up. Rain.
Is that your final answer?
Well, I mean, I'll think about this a little bit more because I feel like rain. I guess rain. It's not rain that goes back up, but that's still water, and like water goes down, and still goes back up. I don't know. Someone's. Oh no, I feel like that. I'm about to say something very, very crude, and I feel like that's probably not the answer.
Hey man, I
What
mean,
goes down? What goes down never goes up. No, I'll say something like as a joke, and like if you want to edit this in or edit this out, be as you will. But I was gonna say,
yeah.
50 plus when you don't have Viagra, but
Fair enough, man. Hey, I mean, like that does make sense. Like, but I can confirm that is not the answer listed on the screen.
damn. All right, what goes down but never goes up? Man, I feel like I can't think of anything but rain, so I'll just lock in rain when I feel like it's the wrong answer.
Dude, pop off. It is rain. Let's go.
Oh,
Oh my god.
yeah.
All right, yo, I'm gonna have to pull all the stops out now because I really can't be treating these guests. I really can't be treating these viewers right now with me dancing. All right, are you ready for something that's potentially a little more obscure?
Oh boy. Give me a fighting chance at least.
All right, all right.
Make it be like, a low chance question, but like, at least have like a chance of me getting it.
I guess to better help me understand, so like the questions are broken up by category. What categories are you most strong in? Would you say like geography,
Uh,
history for you?
I'd say science definitely the strongest.
Science.
Geography and history, depends on the region. I definitely was a big geography B nerd in middle school. So maybe I still remember some things, but if it's a very specific question, who knows?
If that's the case, then I'm definitely not giving you any of those. All right, we're turning 180 here, and we're giving you Southern trivia. I'm just kidding.
Southern geography.
Let's see.
What is the best restaurant? The only answer is Waffle House.
Wait, you know what? You know what, Seth? I will give you the exact same question that I gave Calvin when and actually viewers don't know this yet, but actually, well, by the time I post this one, Calvin's podcast will be out, so he's the very next one. But
Oh boy.
the
I'm in
question,
I'm in the presence of greatness, like the whole OG squad of Guan, Calvin, and Max alongside Harley, you know.
it's what can I say, man? I mean, I think Harley actually got all three questions right. So because of that, I had to serenade him for like 20 seconds, but I'm trying to find the exact question right now. Sorry for stalling.
No worries.
All right, Seth. In the state of Georgia, it's illegal to eat what with a fork?
Oh damn. With a fork, this has to be something really obscure. I feel like this is like one of those like you can't believe that this is the case. Because I remember like there's something in Oregon where you can't kickbox a kangaroo, or you can't box with a kangaroo. And it's like, why do you even have a law like that? So I feel like this is something like that, along like that levels of like insanity. Can I ask a qualifying question? Is it a food? Or it can be considered a food or something that you can eat?
That's a good question. Yeah, because I mean, like, you can't eat a car, like. So yeah, no, yeah.
Some people can. Wasn't that like one of those like weird addictions? It was like the person would like eat like metal, including cars.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I'm not trying to offend anyone that eats metal who's watching. Please don't. It's not good for your digestive system, and you'll probably have to get a prostate exam from Severyn, and he won't be excited to see that. So let's save everyone a lot of trouble here.
This will hurt you more than it hurts me. Can't eat what with a fork?
You got 10 seconds.
you know, I feel like Georgia will have some weird things, but I can't think of anything but peaches. And I feel like they have something stupid like you're not allowed to eat peaches with a fork because Georgia peaches are famous, and you need to eat them with your hands in your mouth like a real Georgian.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, Sev, I will have to tell you the answer when I get back because I need to use the bathroom.
No,
BRB.
no, that means I got it wrong. Well, everyone, at this point in time, I hope you know that I am now hijacking Max's podcast. This is now Severyn's podcast. So this is what happens when you leave, and do not call dibs on the podcast. So from now on, we're going to talk exclusively and only about swimming. And first of all, I want to hail our goats, the male goat, Michael Phelps, and the female goat, Katie Ledecky, all hail. MP and KL, all hail. And we will talk about what happened at, or what we expect will happen at the Paris Olympics in 2024 with some of our favorite rising stars like David Popovici, Leon Marchand. Sadly, a couple Australians that defeat Americans, but we won't talk about them too much. But I'm very excited to see what's going on and what will happen in Paris, especially for Leon as he goes home to his native country after training with Bob Bowman for another 2 years. He'll definitely have a couple world records to his name and a couple gold medals. I'm just excited to see what young swimmers like him can do. And David Popovici, man, he'll do so well. Oh, he's back. Oh no.
Man, I should not have chugged 2 liters of water off the gym.
Yeah, that's funny because I was just talking about swimming. I hijacked your podcast and it's now a swimming podcast that time that you were
here. Dude, I love that. Wait, did you actually watch all the podcast episodes?
I did.
So you pulled a Jonathan? That's awesome, man. Yeah, no. Hey, I love those bloopers. I'll have to rewatch it and make sure you didn't say anything too sus. Sounds good, man.
Oh, good. You gotta keep your toes.
No, dude. I mean, that's exciting to me because I usually watch the entire podcast just to make sure, like, if there's anything people don't feel comfortable with, I just cut it out, or just to make people look like they're really dumb by splicing things together.
Well, I look forward to looking like absolute idiot because I'm gonna tell all my friends to watch this to see what it's like to be on a podcast with Max.
All right, man. Well, I'm pumped. Are you ready for the answer? I'm sorry for stalling for so long.
I've been ready ever since you said that you're going.
The
whole.
I like the thought process where you said the peach because like it is pretty absurd. It's kind of on a similar wavelength. It's fried chicken.
That was what I was thinking of saying. God damn, I should have said fried chicken. I was actually thinking that. God damn.
That's so funny. That's so funny that you said that because when I asked Calvin that question, Calvin said fried chicken at first, and I was like, "Is that your final answer?" And then he changed back to something else, and he's like, "Oh, it's fried chicken." It's so funny, man.
Damn. All right.
So, guys, viewers, if you've made it to this part of the podcast, you are in for an absolute treat. Okay, you're about to see Sev pull out the best dance moves that you've seen since Toad's Place. So
it's Toad's Place. Oh my goodness. Do I get music or do I like dance without music?
You can play music on your end, but I'll add in music on the actual edit.
Oh boy. All right. I'll hook up Spotify right now.
All right.
Let's see. Let's see what we're gonna dance to today. What is the first song up? I'm nothing up right now. So let's see. Let's go to the like songs and see what seems like dancing right now. Oh, this is a lot of sad songs. All right, I guess we'll put on. This is literally all sad music. Why do I only listen to sad music recently? All right, we'll do Cut Me Loose, the Sieb remix, which is a little sad, but has some techno portions. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Should I stand? Fully stand? All right.
Yeah.
believe that was right around 15 seconds.
That was beautiful. I love the enthusiasm you put into this. I personally myself, I don't really watch dance that much, but that looked like a dance to me. So I think you passed the vibe check.
Oh man, that's the highest of compliments.
I'm gonna find an absurdly hard beat to put on when you just dance. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a banger. So
Hell yeah.
dude, thanks so much for being enthusiastic and for taking that loss on your chin, man. The peach or the fried
That's what you got to
chicken.
do.
Do you have any recommendations on like just overall like how the halftime show or the trivia can be improved? I guess, do you have any thoughts or comments?
Hmm. I think it'd be funny to have something that like about the participant, and make it like a very hard question in that line of questioning and make them feel bad for not knowing it because it's something like absurd, but like maybe something that they should know. So I don't know, for me, like
Gotcha.
maybe some very absurd Ukrainian geography question that I'll feel embarrassed for not knowing.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, whoever's on podcast 7, they're getting fucked. So you can thank Seb for that.
Damn, that's what I'm here for.
Hey man, well, we only have a couple of questions left, and these are more so just to get to know you a little more personally. So, the first of which is, what are you most proud of so far, like personal accomplishment wise,
Personally, what am I accomplishment wise?
or not necessarily accomplishment, just like most proud of so far personally.
There are a lot of things, but I think like the thing that like comes to mind immediately of like things that I'm most proud of is I was big on swimming. I love swimming. I love watching swimming. I loved swimming for a while, and my biggest goal was to make states as a freshman as I was entering high school. And I think I was well along the ways, but then I tore my hamstring at the end of sophomore year. And then junior year was just a bad recuperation process where I had to like relearn how to walk. It was a 6-month PT. And I come into the season and I was just like not doing it. I was like, damn, like, I basically will never make states now. And then in come senior year, and I've been training hard for a while, and progress starts to happen again. And I was like, okay, stuff's gonna go down. And then towards the end of the season, I had a good season by my standards, especially relative to the previous season. But coach basically at the end was like, hey, I'm going to taper you for states, not for districts, because we have a fighting chance of getting second at state. We were not going to win. Xavier, which is a school in Cincinnati, has won like 40 times at this point. In the last like 50 years, they always win. They have multiple Olympic gold medalists, international meet qualifiers for the United States. So, they're just locked and loaded. So it's like a race to second. And he's like, we're basically going to need you to step up on the 200 free relay. So, basically what he was telling me is I'm not going to make it as an individual, because even if I made it as an individual, it's probably not going to score points, but hopefully I can like, put on, some fast, quick times in the relays. And, at districts, I didn't have the greatest of meets. I like had absolute crap on the relay split. I was just like feeling bad because like there's something basically you feel bad the whole year, and then taper hits and you like scale down the yardage and like, no weightlifting, no nothing. And all of a sudden you start feeling like well rested and like good, but halfway through your body's like, what the hell is going on? Why are you
Yeah.
not training so hard? So you just like, it's called like the mid taper blues. And I was feeling it hard, just like feel like just really shitty in the water. And then income states, and like I had the best meet of my life. I walk off on that. Our relay became All-American. So I'm an All-American swimmer, and we got second in state in the large contribution of the team. And I just like was super proud that I was able to, first of all, like fulfill my like dream of this point 6 years really of qualifying the states. And I never dreamed of becoming an All-American and just runner up. And I still have that patch on my Letterman. I don't have the actual Letterman jacket. It was like $300, and I was like, not going to pay $300 for a Letterman jacket.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Ignatius
yeah.
was my high school, so it was kind of ugly. But it was just like like a moment that like I literally like I got up and I was like screaming like an animal. I was just like, I don't know like why I was so excited about something that like it matters a lot, but like I'd never been that excited about anything in my life, and I like haven't been anything like that since. There's like this moment of euphoria of seeing like I anchored the last person and like hand on the wall, and just seeing the time that I put up, like the place that we ultimately got, and just like realizing that contributing to the winning culture, just like there's no second feeling to that.
That's awesome, man. Like, hey, everyone who's watching right now, comment down below on the YouTube video, Seb the All-American, all right? And can we get can we get the prayer emoji down below as well? Let's go, man. That's awesome, bro. I feel like honestly, what you just said, that euphoria you feel from like that accomplishment, I feel like it's very difficult to get that unless you do a sport. because like the adrenaline, like the camaraderie you get out of it. Sure, you can do it from like gaming and games stuff like that, but I feel like especially with sports, like that's a very real feeling. And not to flex at all because you're all of American shits on what I'm gonna say, but yeah, like that's kind of exactly how I felt when I managed to make it to the state team for Alabama. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. But
Soccer.
yeah, for soccer. So yeah, I felt the exact same way. I didn't scream like an animal. I just like inwardly cheers, like yay, and that was it, you know.
I literally got out of the pool and I was just weak. Like you put everything, like every last ounce of energy into that race. I get out and like my dad roasted me and my mom roasted me afterwards. They're like, I thought that like you had like a, like you had like a seizure or something. I got up and I was just like, yeah. And you see like my three relay teammates were like doing the same shit. And they're like, we're all just like hugging and like going on the blocks. And then we're on like the medal ceremony. It's just, I don't know. It's like, especially being in a relay, like, as you said, like the team camaraderie, like 4 years of absolute torture, especially over like winter break where you like do two a days and
Cold,
like
yeah,
coach
yeah.
throws every last thing at you, and you're just like, there's just like no other thing that like matches that for me at least.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to get that goal of, being the anchor man for second place and then also obviously the icing on the cake, All American. That's sick, man. But on the flip side, what is your biggest regret so far, or do you have any regrets?
I think everyone has a regret, but I feel like I'm trying to think like what would be considered a biggest regret. Hmm.
Maybe not getting that fried chicken question wrong on that trivia, that
That's
gosh darn
certainly
trivia.
that is certainly a regret, but I feel like biggest regret needs a little bit more oomph to it. But like nothing is immediately coming to mind. Um, I definitely regret that I feel ever since I got into college. And it's like super great to go off into college and be away from your family. But I regret not being able to be closer to home and like see my sister grow up. Because there's an eight year age gap with us. And like I come back and I try to call her as much as possible. It's like different than like being there all the time. And just like, I don't know, I just come back and I'm just like, wow, like, like you've grown a lot and like you have like XYZ things that you're not interested in that like you weren't in before that, I might have not caught on. And it just feels like sometimes it's a little sad to like feel like, maybe if we were like closer in age, it'd be a little bit different because she'd be like in a similar point in life as I am. But she's now going to be a sophomore in high school. And it's like, I'm super proud of everything that she's been able to do and like has been doing for a while. But wish I could be home a little bit more often.
I feel that, man, especially when your family's so far away. Um, and honestly, that's just one of those things. It's kind of called growing up. Eventually you have to fly away from the nest, and that's kind of how every parent feels. The exact feeling that you felt. It's like, oh, like what's acting like I'm like when like your mom's like, oh, what's Sev doing? Is Sev still dry scooping protein powder? Like, does he know how to? Is he feeding himself well? Going forward, what is your goal in the next year?
Next year, well, I feel like everything is kind of like planned out because of med school is like what I have to accomplish. But I guess theoretically around in a year, I'd be probably taking step one. So I guess like that's like the thing that's like starting to maybe like creep up in the back of my mind slightly. It's like like past step one.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that exam is like a behemoth, right? But it's pass fail now, right? Which is better.
It is, but what some people are saying is like the actual margin for passing is gonna be harder than it was before.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. And then, as if 1 year could not come fast enough, what about 5 years?
I feel like there's different answers to that question because I feel like career wise, hopefully, I'm in a residency. If I ultimately go into oncology, probably an internal medicine residency is someplace where I'm happy. I don't know. I hope that personal life will be like, still fulfilling at that point. That can still like follow passions that I have now and like not have residency bog that down too much. And be able to maintain contact with all my good friends. I feel like that's a happy life with that.
How about 10 years? You're gonna be
Man, I'm thinking
32.
different. Yeah, have my first job probably right around then, like actually officially.
Yeah, yeah.
No, not actually. Obviously I worked through high school and college, but I meant like actual first career job. I don't know. I feel like hopefully family at that point, have some familiar responsibilities, that type of vibe.
And then the last question I like to ask all of my lovely guests on the show is, do you have any advice or like quote that you'd like to leave the viewers with? Because they've stuck around for, the entire podcast. Give them a little something,
A little something. Whatever. I have a lot of really quotes that I like to live by, but something that like, to leave someone thinking on.
Or maybe not even necessarily a quote, just like advice about
Advice.
anything.
How about I'll give both, and I'll give something somewhat seemingly conflicting advice. Where one of my favorite quotes, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, obviously, and there is a quote from Yoda in episode 5, I believe, that is, "No, try not, do or do not. There is no try." And I kind of like that. The emphasis of it is like, it's not as much where I feel like some people are like, oh, you listen to that, it's like there's no such thing as trying. That's not what it's saying. There's a difference having a mentality of going like, okay, I'm going to try something versus I'm going to do something. And I think both are important in different contexts. But I feel like if there's something that you value truly in life, do it as opposed to trying it. And on the flip side, I think there's a great quote that's like, if you do something, you might as well do it well. It's kind of like the general line. And like I saw someone post that like, if something is worth it, you might as well do it at least half-assed. And kind of like the context that they gave was along the lines of like, it's better to brush your teeth for 10 seconds as opposed to 0 seconds. And like some people might like look at that and say like, okay, like, like brush your teeth, might as well like brush it for the full ABCs, 30 seconds or whatever, 40 seconds. But like there are times in people's lives, you don't want to go too much into mental health struggles. There are times in people's lives where it gets harder to like do basic things like grooming and making sure that, everything is up to speed, cooking, brushing their teeth, all those things. And I think like, especially in those types of moments, it's better to do something a little bit as opposed to not doing it at all. And having that like, like little by little approach, I think is truly doing as opposed to trying. So how about I'll leave you with that. What is the best restaurant? The only answer is Waffle House.